The Kitchen Table Project is a movement of mums and dads learning from each other, sharing ideas, and talking together about how we can inspire a faith that lasts in our children. And it's not about adding yet another thing to the to-do list. It's about pointing our children to God in the everyday things of life and showing just how important God is to everything that we do. Let's hear from Andy Frost, church leader and dad. He's going to share from the Bible and show us how we can take this responsibility seriously.
Recent research shows that just half of children who grew up with Christian families choose to follow Jesus when they become adults. And that's heartbreaking. Yet I believe we have an opportunity to partner with God to see that statistic changed. To see many more children grow up to become followers of Jesus. There were no guarantees. There were no simple formulas. Life is complicated, and ultimately, our children have to make their own decision. And yet I believe there are some simple things we can do in our homes that will help faith flourish. There's this amazing passage in Deuteronomy chapter 6, as Moses speaks to the people of Israel. He says these words, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates." Moses gives this final pep talk to the people of Israel. He is about to leave them, and they are about to enter into the promised land. Everything is about to change. And yet the people had experienced some amazing things. They had experienced the character of God in miraculous occasions. They had escaped from Egypt, through the Red Sea, and for 40 years in the wilderness, God had provided for them. They had these stories about God. And Moses tells them that it's their responsibility, this beautiful responsibility, to pass on these stories to the next generation. What's interesting is that he doesn't say about doing it on special occasions, but about sharing in the routine of life. As you're going for a walk, as you're sat around at home, as you're going to bed, as you're waking up in the morning. If we call ourselves Christians, then we've experienced something of the grace and the love of God. And we have a role in passing on our stories to the next generation. It's about showing and living out our faith in the everyday.
It's encouraging to know that there are already lots of things that we're doing that are preparing the ground for faith. Did you know, for instance, that just by feeding our children, we're teaching them how to trust the people around them, and that in turn teaches them how to trust God? But have you ever wondered what our children really think about God? It's worth asking, because sometimes what they understand might not be what we expect.
There's some things I'm not sure about. I don't really get why people gave Jesus the cross to die on. I don't really think that's really pleasant. Is the Great Fire in London also a story about God? Did God make dinosaurs? I don't know if there's any dinosaurs in the Bible, but I'm sure it was just humans. Nobody's told me about the funny thing where they go down the steps and then the people duck their heads in the water. I think that means because they're leaving.
Sometimes they say things from the Bible which I've never heard before, and that like weird riddles almost. That's a bit confusing.
I think God looks like... I think he looks like green and orange and grey. And he's got white trousers and blue hair and green slippers.
I think God's like Santa, quite old, quite round, quite blushy, you know.
I think he's a really good person, because if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be here today.
And he's the sort of person who, if he sees someone lying on the floor, would call the ambulance to someone. He would be the first one to help in line.
I think God is very, very humble. I think he really cares about people. Well, I've asked my mum and dad, what does it look like in heaven? Will I go to heaven one day? Heaven is up there, up in the sky.
I think pretty cloudy, candy floss, soft, cushiony.
I think it's beautiful. You can do whatever you want. You just go like that, click, and then you get what you want.
It's a shame they don't have phones there, because then my granddad and my great-granddad and my great-grandma and my friend, we would have been able to talk to each other.
The person you are calling has not answered. Please try again.
Sometimes I find it a bit confusing, but I don't think adults have all the answers either.
Sometimes we can feel that we don't know enough, or that the church is a better place to teach our children about God. And children's work is fantastic and is really important to our children's spiritual development. But in reality, they only get to spend maybe an hour a week in church. And it would take 421 years for the church to spend as much time with our children as we do as parents. Our role as parents is so important. Life is busy. As a parent, it can be overwhelming, the numbers of things we feel we need to fit in. Some of the things that might have come up in your discussion will be real reasons as to why it's hard to nurture faith in our children. In our research, we found 5 common barriers that get in the way of us sharing our faith with our children. Things like not enough time to spend with our children, or the time that we do have as a family is dedicated to other activities. Sometimes we feel we need help with knowing what to do, or we're worried about getting it wrong. Or sometimes we just don't feel that we're a good enough example as a Christian to model it to our children. Let's hear from Andy Frost again.
I find these 5 barriers really interesting because they ring true for me as a parent. I'm passionate about passing on my faith to my kids, helping to nurture their faith. But I'm very aware that often I make mistakes, that I fail to fully represent Jesus. This one time I took my 2 kids to go and see a play, and my youngest one was too young for the play, so I lied about her age. And at that point my eldest turned to me and said, "Daddy, that's a lie." And in that moment I realised just how much I failed to fully show who God is. We can often think we can't show our faith with our kids because we make too many mistakes. But actually these mistakes give us an opportunity to talk about grace and forgiveness and how we are not perfect, but every day we're learning to do things as God intends them to be done. Then there's that barrier about not wanting to get things wrong. We often get asked those questions at inopportune moments. My children once asked me, "So Daddy, can you explain the Trinity to us?" It completely caught me off guard. Trying to explain to a 4-year-old how the Trinity works was so complex, and I made a real hash of it. But again, it's okay to make these mistakes. We are all learning. There are times we don't get things quite right, but we can go on a journey discovering with our kids what things really look like, about how God really is. Nothing is beyond rescue. These barriers, I prefer to see them as being hurdles, that they can be overcome, that we can nurture faith. For me, the whole thing here is about being more intentional. I often pray, as I'm going about my day-to-day business, I often pray in my head. When my kids are present, I become more aware about praying out loud, to show them how I rely upon God in the everyday of life. I've also become more aware, just as I'm walking with my kids to the park, about looking up at the trees, looking up at the sunset, and talking about the Creator God. For me, these barriers can be overcome. They are just hurdles. And as we become more intentional, we really can nurture faith in the home.
So this is an exciting journey that we can all go on together. We're always learning and figuring out what works for us in our different stages of life. All these ways we've talked about that build faith in our kids can be summed up in 4 key foundations. Home, creating a warm and loving environment where our children feel safe, loved and accepted, gives a secure foundation for their faith to grow. Be real. It's not about being an expert. We're not perfect, but it's about living out our faith in a genuine way that inspires our children to want it for themselves. Be intentional, finding ways to bring God naturally into our everyday life really encourages our children to discover what a relationship with God is like. Belonging, involving our children in church and building relationships with other Christians helps them to feel that they're a part of the wider family of God. But finally, we know we need God's help. Prayer really does underpin everything that we do. So let's encourage each other, let's pray for our children and ask Him to help us in all our efforts as parents. I hope you'll enjoy taking the opportunity now to explore together a few more simple things that you can do at home to really inspire a faith that lasts.